George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw's written Miseries of the Rich. So, if you talk about that, who is G.B. Shaw or George Bernard Shaw? G.B. Shaw was one of the most influential playwrights, right? Playwrights of the modern period. He was not only a dramatist but also a critic, or you can say polemicist and thinker who used literature to challenge society. So he lived during a time when England was marked by strong divisions between the rich and the poor, and he always stood uh, on the side of exposing hypocrisy, injustice, and false values. Among his works, the short play Miseries of the Rich uh, stands out as a compact but sharp criticism. Sharp criticism of the what? Sharp criticism of the wealthy classes. So, and the hololites, they often leave. Wealthy classes and the hololites, they often leave. Who often leave? That the wealthy class people. Even though the title means Miseries of Rich, right? Miseries of the Rich uh, sound paradoxical. Paradoxical means what? Self contradiction, right? Self contradiction. In that case, so when you say that what, even though the title as a compact, yet you can say that sharp criticism of the wealthy classes and the rural life they often lead. Even though the title sound paradoxical, paradoxical means self-contradiction, right? So G.B. Shah's or George Bernard Shaw's point is very clear. What is that? Riches, instead of guaranteeing happiness, riches, instead of guaranteeing happiness, often bring misery, often bring misery, emptiness, and discontent, isn't it? So, to understand this text and its importance, it is necessary that what to understand the class closely, right? So, to look at its characters, to look at the kind of a plot that present in it, the kind of themes that we draw, and the style uh, in which the author has written, and to consider how G.B. Shah's ideas, Judge Bernard Shah's ideas, reflect his lifelong mission of what? Mission of exposing the contradiction of capitalist society. So capitalist society, you understand, that called the rich people, right, who have huge money, isn't it? So the title itself prepares us what? The title itself prepares us for a kind of a irony. Irony, you understand? It means you understand something, but the author tells you something, isn't it? That's what is known as the irony. Got my point? So I remember that what one of the statement in which you would find out paradoxical and also find out irony. It's called as a man always wants happiness and peace. Man always wants happiness and peace, yet search for a home. Yet search for a woman to man. Now, do you understand this statement? That's why you are not laughing. Right. So, it is stated that what the title itself prepares us for a kind of a irony. So, normally people associate misery with the poverty. Misery is called as unhappiness. So, unhappiness is connected with what? Poverty. Poverty means you understand, right? Not only poverty, but also hunger, disease, and struggle, right? So the poor are expected to be what? The poor are expected to be miserable. They do not have resources. The poor are expected to be miserable, right? Why? Because they don't have the resources, or they don't have also peace, not peace. You can say they don't have comfort, right? They don't have resources. They don't have comfort. So, but G.B. Shah cleverly turns the idea upside down and presents the miseries of those who are rich. By doing so, he wants us to think critically about what wealth actually brings. Does wealth bring happiness? So, are riches truly a blessing? Are riches truly a blessing? So, or can they turn into chain? Or can they turn into chain that prevent or that stop real living? You can't leave the reality. The play uses criticism. The play uses nothing but the humorous. So, to answer this question, right? So, the plot of Miseries of the Rich is simple, almost secondary to the, you can say, ideal. Jivisha doesn't waste time in building a complex storyline. Complex means called as a difficult storyline. So instead, what does he try to do? He presents conversation and the confrontation, conversations and confrontation that reveal the what do you say, the shallow value of the rich. The play features members of the wealthy class who enjoy luxury and privilege but remain deeply dissatisfied. So they enjoy luxury, they enjoy privilege, right? Still dissatisfied. They complain about their troubles in a manner that almost appears ridiculous to those who are outside that circle. So they suffer from boredom. They means referring to whom? Now referring to the those of the people who belong to wealthy class, right? So you can say that they suffer from boredom, they suffer from loneliness, and also you can say that they don't have any purpose, lack of purpose, and also strained relationship. Strained relationship means called as harm or severe relation, means a bad relationship or filled with a tense relationship. So in their world, even abundance cannot cure emptiness. Abundance is called as a excessive, huge. Whatever the money they do have, still also they cannot fulfill their happiness, or they cannot bring them the happiness, right? Or they cannot cure their emptiness, right? So they believe that they don't have anything, isn't it? So this sharp contrast between the complaints and the actual struggles of the poor creates the main irony, isn't it? Now, poor don't have anything, they live in the misery, but rich have everything, still find out their emptiness, isn't it? Loneliness, lack of means, lack of what? They believe that lack of money, isn't it? So they also have a what? No peace, harmony, all these things. So what Chivisa therefore exposes the hollowness of material wealth. So the hollowness of the material wealth, isn't it? So in this particular topic, you would find out the characters of the play. The characters of the play represent what? Represent types rather than individual personalities. They represent types rather than individual personalities. So, what G.B. Shah deliberately describes those of the characters as examples of the rich class as a whole, right? So, they are well fed, they are well dressed, and they secure in their position, but at the same time, they are trapped in a life. They are trapped in a life that lacks emotional depth, that lacks emotional depth. So they have money, but they don't have satisfaction. So they possess, right? Their possessions do not give them any joy. So they find out no comfort, no meaning, right? Do they do living in a comfortable, but still they don't find out the inner peace. And that's why it does the comfort they do have do not provide any meaning to them, right? So, for instance, if you talk about that, there is the character of the wealthy matron. Wealthy matron. So, matron, you understand? Matron, matron. So, those generally people who take care of your baby, right? So, are called as to do the household activities. So, the character of the wealthy matron who is constantly worried about appearances, fashion, and social reputation, right? So she spends hours trying to maintain her image, but what does she find? She finds no happiness in her efforts, right? Let's say that if you go to the market, you find out numerous choices are there, but as many choices as you have, you are not satisfied because you are not getting something which is making you satisfied. You find out that maybe many are there which are uh, perfect, but out of that perfect, you want the then the most appropriate or most perfect, or perfect the most, isn't it? So in that case, here you will find out that what that matron did not find out any happiness in her efforts. Then there is the beside the matron, you also find out another whose name is who is nothing but a gentleman, right? So the gentleman who has everything, but complains of being what? Complains of being bored to death. So have everything, but do not do any work, and that's why he finds out what he finds out more. So when he finds out more, so he wanted what he wanted to die or being bored to death instead of gratitude, right? So he feels restless and purposeless, right? So you should have happy that what you have everything and you don't need to do anything. So you have what you can say that you have people who can serve your job. You have means children who can means do everything for you, right? So you have money you can spend on anything. You have luxurious lifestyle, comfortability. Still, you feel unhappy because you are finding yourself in boredom situation, and you are then the boredom to die. Got my point? So here you would find out. So GVs has a genius light in making what making their complaints appear like what ridiculous to the audience, right? So that the audience laughs, well, but also reflects, also understand the characters mirror the emptiness of our class. The characters, that's what the characters mirror the emptiness of our class. Emptiness of our class means what? It shows that what now these people, right? You have everything, but their characters show that what they don't have anything, right? That defines itself by wealth, but forgets the deeper meaning of life. It indicates that you have everything, but they don't have life to live, isn't it? So the author even said that one of G.B. Shah's important point is that misery is not always about physical suffering. Do you think that misery is about physical suffering? Obviously, we find ourselves misery when we suffer from the physical pain. But beside physical suffering, you also find out something called as a mental, psychological, or called as emotional, right? So the poor suffer from lack of food. The poor suffer from lack of food, clothes, and shelter, a place to live. But their lives are full of struggle and energy, right? So they fight for survival. They fight for what vitality, isn't it? So and in that struggle they find out the vitality, isn't it? So the rich, on the other hand, possibly not suffer from hunger, right? Or called as a disease in the same way. Even if you find out hungry, you go and ask for pizza, right? You call to Zomato, right or not? If you suffer from any disease, you have been immediately admitted to Apollo, isn't it? So it means you have money, you can get all such kind of a things. But what about poor? Poor people don't get those facilities. So for food, they need to go to the market. For food, they means whatever they have, they eat, right? And for means disease, if they suffer from any disease, they go to means government hospital, and there if they get the treatment or not. So in that case, you would find out the rich means will not suffer from or may not suffer from hunger or disease in the same way, but they suffer from a what? They suffer from a spiritual emptiness. They suffer from spiritual emptiness. It means you find out inner side, make them feel like what? Empty. Right. Something is lacking. Their lives are often shallow, bound by social conventions and hunted by fear of losing status. Right. So they have a fear also that the kind of a lifestyle they are living, so which may lose, isn't it? So the kind of a misery is less visible but equally painful. By contrasting these two types of suffering, right, these two types of suffering, Chivisha argues that wealth is not the solution to human happiness. Wealth is not the solution to human happiness. In fact, it can create new forms of unhappiness. It can it can create new form of unhappiness. So, in that case, the themes of miseries of the rich, right, are deeply tied to Shah's broader social philosophy. Broader social philosophy. The first and the most obvious theme is the anger of wealth, futility of wealth. Jivisha shows that riches cannot buy peace of mind. Riches cannot buy peace of means love. Riches cannot buy genuine human connection, isn't it? The second thing you will find out, the author Jivisha stated that means what? That it is a social hypocrisy. Social hypocrisy means what? Now, you can say that something in society which is highly rising, isn't it? So, the rich claim to be superior, but their lives are full of complaints and insecurities. So, they pretend to be models of society, but in reality, they are weak, fragile, they're fragile and dissatisfied. Another important theme is the contrast between appearance and reality. So, how she appears, but the reality is different, isn't it? She makes so smiling face, but inside she may cry, isn't it? So that's what is indicating about what uh, the author stated that what there is a contrast between appearance and reality. Outwardly, the rich look successful and happy. The rich look successful and happy, but inwardly they are full of trouble. They are means, finding some kind of a problems, right? So this gap between surface and truth, this gap means between surface and truth is nothing but the main part of G.B. Shah's criticism or Shah's satire, right? So, a related theme is the critique of capitalism. Related theme is the critique of capitalism. So, G.B. Shah was a Fabian socialist. G.B. Shah was a Fabian socialist. So, and he believed that the capitalist system created what? Created inequality and false what? False values. In his view, the rich lived off the labor, the rich lived off the labor of the poor, but they themselves did not achieve true happiness. Right. So they showed the absurdity of the system. Absurdity means ridiculousness of the system. It caused suffering both at the bottom, at the top, and Jivisa's play suggests that a just society cannot be built on wealth alone. You cannot build the society simply by telling the whom means wealthy people, right? So it requires equality, it requires fairness, it requires purpose. And another theme is what? Another theme is the question of identity and the meaning. So the characters struggle with the question: what is that? What is life for? What is life for? They have material comfort but cannot find meaning. Right. So Jibisha suggests that true fulfillment comes not from what you possess or possessions, but from creativity, love, and social responsibility. These are actually creating nothing but what that called as a means true fulfillment, right? So, in this particular part, if you observe that the author uses the literary style of the play in typical Shah, he uses dialogues as his as his main tool, means important tool. So, in a form of dialogues, right? So, the conversations are witty, sharp, and full of irony. Instead of giving lecture directly, so what Jivisa allows his characters expose themselves through their own words. Right. For example, when a rich character complains about boredom despite having everything, the audience immediately holds the irony. Right. So Chivisha doesn't need to explain. The absurdity speaks for itself. Absurdity means called it ridiculous. Right. Stupidity speaks for itself. His language is simple but effective. And his humor makes the criticism enjoyable. Right. So Jibisa also uses exaggeration and uh, criticize to highlight the ridiculous nature of the reach. At times, the complaints of the characters sound so trivial that the audience cannot help but laugh. Right. And yet behind the laughter is a what? Serious message. So another striking feature of Jibisha's style is the way he combines comedy with the social critique. On the surface, the play possibly appears as a light comedy, making fun of the rich, but beneath the humor lies a sharp social analysis. Jibisha always believed that laughter was a powerful tool to make people think, right? By making the audience laugh at the rich. He also forces he also forces them to question the values of society. His uses of paradox, such as the idea that riches bring misery, is nothing but the main part to his method. The social and philosophical context of the play is very important. So Jivisa was writing at a time when England was undergoing major changes. Industrialization had created huge wealth for some, but also great poverty for many. The, the gap between rich and poor was very visible. Jibisha, as a member of the Fabian Society, believed in a gradual social reform, and gradual social change, and exposing the flaws of the capitalist system. Right? Miseries of the rich is a part of this mission. It was not written simply to entertain, but to make audiences aware of the emptiness of what? Wealth-based life. Right? So Jivisha wanted people to see that happiness and social progress require more than luxury. Right? It required justice, equality, and meaningful living. Right? So the play also reflects Jivisha's interest in human psychology. So he believed that human beings are often trapped by false ideas and conventions. Right? The rich in the play are trapped by their own illusions. They think wealth is the highest achievements, but they discover it brings dissatisfaction. This psychology, this psychological irony is central to Jibisha's critique. The miseries of the rich is not external but internal. It is the miseries of the mind and soul. Right? When the play was first staged, audience found it both amusing and thought-provoking. Many laughed at the absurd complaints of the characters, but also recognized the truth in Jibisha's words. Some critics accused Shah of being too harsh on the rich, but others also praised his courage in exposing the weaknesses of the privileged class. Even today, also, if you see, the play remains relevant because society continues to struggle with inequality and the question of whether wealth guarantees happiness or not. Modern audiences can easily see the connection between Jivisha's characters and today's wealthy elites, who, despite their success, often reveal deep unhappiness. In terms of dramatic technique, the play is short and direct. Jivisha avoids long action scenes and instead depends on dialogue and irony. This makes the play more like a social sketch or a one-act satire, but you can say it's a brevity. But it's a brevity gives it a power. Brevity means brave to brevity, bravery, isn't it? So give it a power. You can find out that every line is a purpose. Every complaint from the characters adds to the central irony. Jibisha also uses contrast between characters to highlight different aspects of misery. What are the different qualities of misery? One may be worried about health, another about boredom, another about reputation, but together they paint a picture of a class that is miserable despite its privilege. So finally, when you say that the conclusion of the play is not a solution but a revelation, right? So Jivisha doesn't offer an easy answer to the problem of misery. Instead, he leaves the audience with the realization that wealth doesn't guarantee happiness and that a society built on inequality is absurd. The audience is expected to understand on their own values and on the structure of the society. Jivisha's aim is not to entertain passively, but to think critically, provoke influence thought and discussion. From a modern perspective, miseries of the rich can also be connected to contemporary debates, right? Or that the old time debates about consumerism and mental health. In today's world, many people equate happiness with a material possession, luxury lifestyle, or high status. But depression, anxiety, and loneliness remain widespread. Even among the wealthy, Jibisha's message that wealth doesn't equate to happiness, it is still very relevant. His play reminds us that true fulfillment comes from purpose, creativity, relationship, and fairness, not from mere accumulation of money. To analyze the play more deeply, we can look at each character as a symbol, like the fashionable lady. So symbolizes vanity. Vanity means called as a proud and social pressure. The bored gentleman symbolizes the emptiness of luxury without work or struggle. The anxious host symbolizes fear of losing status. Together they represent what the different miseries that wealth brings. Vanity, boredom, insecurity, purposelessness. So Jivisa shows that these miseries are not accidents, but natural result of a life built only on wealth. Right? It also insisting or just it also interesting that what to compare the rich in the play with the poor, who are absent but implied. The poor may not appear on stage, but their presence is felt as a contrast. The audience knows that outside the world of the play, millions struggle for food and shelter. Against that background, the complaints of the rich appear not only stupid but also unjust or means, prejudice, right? So Jivisa therefore uses contrast as a technique to sharpen its criticism. So the play also reflects Jivisha's belief in the need for social change, right? He did not believe in violent revolution, but in continuous change through awareness and education. So by showing the miseries of the rich, he hoped to make people realize that the current system benefits no one, right? Not even the wealthy themselves. If both the poor and rich are miserable, then society needs what? Change. Right. So the Fabian approach was to use such ideas to push for social policies that would reduce inequalities and create a more balanced society. So another important aspect of the play is its universality, right? Though it was written in a specific historical context, its message is timeless, right? Every society has its wealthy class, and in every age, questions arise about whether wealth truly brings happiness. G.V. Shah's satire works because it touches on a universal human truth that happiness comes not from material possession but from deeper value. And this is why the play continues to speak to audience today. So finally, Miseries of the Rich is a short but powerful play that uses satire, irony, and wit, humorous to expose the emptiness of wealth. Though its character and dialogue, it shows that the rich, despite their privileges, suffer from boredom, vanity, insecurity, and lack of purpose. Jibisha's message is not only about the rich, but about as a but about society as a rich. It challenges the audience to question the value of a system that creates sadness at both ends of the social scale. So the play is nothing but a reflection of Jibisha's broader philosophy of what social change and his belief in the need for a more just and meaningful way of living. So ultimately, you find out the play teaches us that true happiness cannot be bought. You cannot buy it from any of the store, any of the market, right? It must be found in a purpose, right? It must be found the love, creativity, and justice. So the miseries of the rich are worthy to all. If we build our lives only on wealth, we may end up with nothingness but empty. Isn't it? We may means end up with nothing but emptiness. So Jivisha, with his humor and insight, makes us remind that the richest life is not the one with the most possession. Richest life is not the one with the most possession, but the one with the most meaning. When you understand the meaning of the life, then you will not run behind money. Got the point? That's what is the, you can find out. The topic is all about.